Titanite. Yeah. Love it. We're getting a lot of green. I don't think it's going to be much use for us, but God, I'm really looking forward to this orange stuff. Anyway, so I know I said I was going to do this farming unrecorded, but I guess I was thinking as I was doing it that I haven't been talking about the game as much, and part of that's because we haven't made it super far through. Agreed. Part of me is nervous that I've actually missed some stuff, but it's neither here nor there. We're still pretty early days. But I figured I should probably talk about the game itself, and this is a good time to do it because I'm just killing slugs. Because I don't know, I think the game is really, you gotta watch their corpses, it's really easy to decide on these guys. This game is really, I love how it tells its story, right? You know, so, because you're sort of dropped into it. Like I said, you can make it through this whole thing and really have no idea what the hell is going on. And that's kind of intentional, I think. You know, this game and Dark Souls generally, sort of ludic meditations on certain themes. You know, so like the undead thing, right? We know that sometime long ago there was an Age of Ancients, this Gray Age. Dragons and arch trees. You're not given a lot of information about that because it was forever ago. We know that some beings found 4 souls. If you're sort of paying attention, I suppose. Gwyn finds the soul of light. The Witch of Izalith, she finds the soul of life. Nito finds the soul of death. And the furtive pygmy finds the soul of dark. So 4 souls opposing each other on 2 axes. And there's this whole period, more green tightening. There's this whole period of fighting a great war. Oh no! Gods and heroes and the whole world seems to be developed. All of this off-screen, all of it before you were here. And it goes on for some ambiguous amount of time. And you're sort of given the impression, both through story, but also just kind of how we interpret things, that it was I don't know, it was something good. It was something beneficial. You know, shit, maybe it was. But you know, epic cities were built and things like that. And by the time you show up, it's in decay. Everything's falling apart in some way. This curse is going through the land. Nobody seems to be able to stop it. And get the curse of the undead, marked by the dark side. You're stuck in this inability to truly die. You know, every time you die, you just come right on back. In this case, at a bonfire. And, you're just sort of fated to do it again. You might see that there's like a benefit to that, but it also seems like there's a pretty serious downside, which is the more you die, the more hollow you become. You lose your sanity. Eventually you're just going to become this sort of husk. So these well, those hollows we've been seeing, those undead creatures, those are all humans who when hollow lost their minds, can't die, can't think, just sort of mindlessly going through the motions. And what that's about, you don't really know. You know that there's a prophecy that's been spread around about how there would be a chosen undead, that they would ring 2 bells and reveal their fate. Chosen for what? That's kind of left up for you to understand. You know, the only thing anybody knows is this vague prophecy. And you run into all these people. The people you're running into, all on one level or another, are on this sort of similar quest, right? So the way that the world seems to have dealt with this curse of the undead is you shuffle them off to the undead asylum to the north of the Portrait, which is where we're at. Well, nearish. So it's a kingdom, but not the only one. You know, you hear tales of places like Astora and whatnot. So we know there are other places. The Curse of the Undead started here, looks like, and then spread. Oof. And, so I'm not sure. I'm worried about what I'm going to be able to actually, like, reveal. Because a lot of this is done through like, conversations you had with people. If you show up at the wrong time, you'll miss things. You know, you won't have the right conversation. You'll be able to figure out what they're about. That makes it hard to put certain things together, but we know that Solaire, for example, was embarked on this epic quest. He's pretty positive about the whole thing. He's gonna find his own son. And the guy who let us out of the Undead Asylum, similar thing, though obviously he couldn't get it done. We felt like he was going hollow. So he's sort of sending us on our way, so maybe we'll be the one. But what's key is that while there's this prophecy of this chosen undead, let's say, everyone is going about this. This isn't like there's a bunch of undead and you were marked with all of these signs, and so you are the chosen one. No one knows who the chosen one is, or how to determine what the chosen one would be like, or even really what they're supposed to do beyond vaguely making their way to the land of ancient lords, and ringing these bells. But everybody's doing it because I guess on some level, like, what else are you gonna do? Like, you're sort of if you're fated to die 1,000 times on your way to madness, and there's no way to really escape that fate, I guess it's the only path really available to you. And so we run into all of these people who are embarking on this journey to one degree or another. Some of them positively, a lot of hope. Some of them more trepidation. Many of them just about their own business. They have their own thoughts on what's happening, what to do about it. If you remember, we're part of a covenant, the Way of White. The Way of White's something like the main church body, you might say. Think of it like the Catholic Church in Dark Souls world. It's old. it seems to be tied to Gwyn, who's kind of like the god of this world. It's interesting because there's 4 beings, let's say, that founded the world to one degree or another. And Gwyn was only one of them, but he sort of set himself up as monarch. Nito, you don't hear a lot about him, but he seems to go off and be a god of death. The Witch of Izalith, she goes off and does her own sets of things, and you don't hear shit about the furtive pygmy. But Gwyn sets himself up as king. He founds these cities. He rewards those who fought with him, and the Way of White seems to be tied to that. So, for example, that guy we killed, Havel, the guy I mentioned that had was locked in the tower by a friend, if I remember right. I'm not sure which item tells you that, but he was a bishop of the Way of White, a big wig in the church, let's say. And so they're the ones, as best I can tell, at least, who sort of established current ways in which we treat the undead like this. They see the dark sign as evil, understandably so. But you know, they seem to have been the ones who set up this this path thing that we're on. The idea being something like, if we can't cure undeath, at least we can get it out of our lands. And whether or not you're actually on an epic quest, let's say, at least it occupies the undead. Now the other thing to like sort of look at is everything in this game so far has revolved around souls. We collect them, consume them. The original lords found souls in the first flame, things like that. And there's a lot of ambiguity around what souls are, what they do, where their power derives from. One of the things you can imagine doing right now, at least how I sort of conceptualize it on this quest, is we're gathering souls. We kill things, we consume it, we turn it on power, stats, mechanically speaking. But you know, when we're facing these large enemies, we have a soul, and we can do something. But basically becoming these repositories of souls, using that to fuel our continuation. Yep. And so whatever it was that, say, like Gwyn did when he established the Age of Fire, or what Nito did when he became First of the Dead, is you know, wield whatever was in these great souls in some way. And that'll be important. There's certain things I know about where the game is going that I won't talk about now, but you know, we seem to be on this pathway of accumulating souls. We find these soul items, right? Soul of a Proud Knight serve as a way of saving currency within the game, but like if you think about it, that's basically, well, so like early on you'll find things like Soul of an Unknown Traveler, and it's worth not a lot of souls, but you know, you find like Soul of a Proud Knight, worth significantly more souls. They're always found on a corpse somewhere. This place was full of them. And I guess if you're sort of thinking about it, and watching it, you know, the implications. Those are the remnants of undead, or maybe not even undead, maybe humans, but the remnants of those who have attempted to fight their way through the areas that you're fighting through and didn't make it. All that's left is this fiery soul thing that they've dropped, depending on sort of the distance they made it, the power of their convictions, the amount of power they've taken from the world, you know, through this quest that they've accumulated within themselves through struggle and through learning, things like that. Like, this is the remainder of that. You find it, take it as your own, take it on further, let's say. There's other factions who are vying for this. I think after this frickin' nonsense here, after Blighttown, we're gonna head back to Firelink and have some conversations. Because they'll have progressed a little bit, but like, if you remember, there was that cleric. Anyway, the guy with the goofy bowl cut at Firelink, he said that he was traveling with a lady on a quest with some other knights. You know, that's basically what's going down there. Is she's on a holy quest, as she sees it. These are her knight retainers, and they're descending more or less for the same thing that you're doing. You know, their perspectives differ. But I believe she's a follower, let's say, of the Way of White, and so would her knights. Another interesting thing is you've got, so it's not going to come up a whole lot for us because we're a strength build beaten up character. So like, you're never going to see me use miracles or sorceries or pyromancies. But the fact that there are 3 separate schools of magic, like, is kind of important. So miracles, which can actually be pretty handy in this game, those run off of faith, and they're tied to the gods. So Gwen, there are other gods. Gwen had children, for example. There was a pantheon. We'll find out a little bit more about that. But it's tied to these gods. One's faith in them. You read miracles. You read these miracles are stories. That's how you learn them. You sort of read these stories of heroic deeds and things that the gods did, etc. It stokes your faith and teaches you a thing that can happen. Let's say a thing that was done in the past that you can do. Using that power, you can now do a healing spell or throw lightning at someone. A large time. The sorcery is different. It's kind of frowned upon by clerics in the Way of White, folks like that. It works off of intelligence. It seems to be more of your ability to understand things, let's say intellectually. Maybe the deeper nature of certain things. You know, you understand things, so you can manipulate sorcery. And then pyromancy is interesting, because it works. It can work on top of either, let's say, depending on the and that seems to be more about like instinct and passion. But I guess what's my interpretation of this, let's say, is that, you know, so when a character has burned off all of their soul come off. It's mindless, sort of just body explosions. My interpretation of that whole mechanic, let's say, is that, like, the real power of all of this, the real force that's driving everything. It's allowed all of this is soul. It's the wielding of the force of the soul. There's different paths you can sort of take, ways in which you can sort of utilize that. The soul grants, intelligence, and it grants belief, and it grants being. And so you're sort of tapping these fundamental aspects of the soul. Back. We'll learn a little bit if I can find him successfully. There's a guy named Big Hat Logan. Pretty cool. He knows a lot about soul manipulation, magics therein, but basically, when Izalith, Nito, they wielded great soul power. We're collecting said soul power. There's religions and schools and all kinds of things based around understanding, manipulating, gaining the soul power, and then using it for one end or another, let's say. I hate running through the swamp. It makes you so slow. There's a lot of interesting places we could go with that discussion. I'm gonna leave it purposely vague because I don't want to do it in as close to man order as possible. Like the order of the game, the order of the timeline. Though even that gets weird. Like, the game talks pretty often about the weird space and time rules that are existing here at the end of the age. So that there are parallel worlds and they're sort of crossing over. When we're being invaded, or if we were to invade something, sort of literally invading the other physical realm of another undead. Ostensibly to steal their humanity, which is important. We know that humanity is tied to, in some way, different from the soul, as it seems to be. Just treat it as a different resource almost. And it is a thing that we're collecting, and there's a couple characters for whom that's the humanity and understanding humanity is the main course of what's going on. For them, or their own personal quest. They're not really looking to fulfill this dead prophecy thing. They're often doing stuff about humanity. If you remember the Firekeepers, the description, the Firekeeper soul talks about how they're a repository for humanity. It seems to be collecting in and around them to allow them to do this thing that they're doing. Painting these bonfires that we can go to, keep resurrecting on, leveling up on, doing all this stuff, and we need a bonfire for that. Having a firekeeper slowly absorb humanity seems to be a key component of that. I don't know if I covered this in the game, but the bonfires that we're staying at, they're bones. They're the thing that's burning there. Dead. So on some level it seems to be just the thousands and thousands of undead who are dying, dying and returning to these bonfires, trying to go out in the world and do whatever it is that they're trying to do. That process itself is kindling these. It's their lives and bodies that are allowing these things to burn. I think we're going to do one more. Yeah, that's okay. Anywho's, trying to think if there's anything else that's like worth sort of like discussing in here. Hopefully I'll play this well and I'll get some of these stories, because that's one of the things I do very much love is like all of these stories that you'll run into if you take the time to pay attention, like read their armor and read the things that they drop and pay attention to where they're hanging out and talk with them, things along those lines. They've got these really sort of interesting stories. You feel, you know, when you sort of start putting stuff together, like there's somebody who wrote that book, made that movie, you'd be interested, you'd watch it, and yet they're just the side characters on this. Like, you're on some sort of epic undead quest and you're running into all these other people, lives and loves and failures and successes and perspectives. Well, you can see them. They're no more or less important. So you're sort of given these brief to everything that's happening. And it's the same thing with the world, you know. You know that there were epic kingdoms and fights with dragons and great betrayals and gods and all kinds of stuff, but like, at least at this stage in the game, right? Kind of by environmental design, you know. That's all in the past, you know. You meet Havel, and Havel's just a slowly hollowing husk at the bottom of a tower. You don't know about the decades, centuries, millennia, I don't know, where he was fighting next to the god of light, slaying dragons, becoming a bishop of this church, like helping establish this age. None of that. You don't get to live through that. It's just a story, something in the past, and you're living through the wreckage of it, the outcome of it. And there's lots of that, you know, people who had schemes, people who had plans, people who had great convictions. Some of them brilliant, powerful, motivated. But, you know, this is the end. This is the end of all of that. This is where all of those things sort of wrap up, and that's kind of like the big question in Dark Souls is, we'll get into this more mission to us, but sort of the big question is how do I put it? It's sort of, you know, what's the, well, one, what's the nature of having a soul? And what's its relation to the world at large? And what are we supposed to do about it? What's the right path? You know, can we make something good? If we can, what are the means by which we do it? Are there wrong ways of doing that? Ways that sort of undercut the goal itself through the nature of how you went about it. And then, even if we make something good, can we preserve it? And if we can preserve it, should we preserve it? let certain things go. Also, I kind of like them. We could talk about these ruminations while my character just stares into the bonfire. Anyway, that's just sort of the stuff I was thinking about while I was off here smacking. Okay, so I've decided we're going to take vitality at 30. So we're just going to sort of alternate between vitality and strength for a little bit. Yeah. We're going to have to upgrade our weapons soon. We're going to have to do a lot of stuff, and that's going to mean leaving Blighttown. That's kind of the thing that I'm trying to avoid while I'm doing all of this, like, farming and whatnot here now. Because I hate Blighttown. I hate Blighttown so much. I don't want to come back here any more than absolutely necessary. And preferably in the fastest way possible. If you remember, there was that, like, water wheel off to the side. If I remember right, that's part of our, like, shortcut in and out of here. At least I frickin' hope so. We'll find out more. But I wanna get as much done in Blighttown as possible, and then find the most direct path in and out on the off chance we have to come back for something. I feel like there's another lower level actually below this. Ugh. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The long and short of it is I don't want to spend any time in this poison, toxic, nightmare environment. The hardest boss in Dark Souls is Blighttown. That's my stance. Anyway, we'll return. We'll go back to just normal playthroughs. We're going to end up sort of dipping right this next time. I think there's some items to grab out that way. We'll explore a bit. Maybe make our way out of here. Go back up to Firelink. Talk with the people there. See if we've got any quest lines that have moved forward. Probably mess around with some weapon upgrades. I know there's a weapon there's a place we're going to go called Sen's Fortress. Not for a little bit, but soonish. We're going to, when we get there, there's a weapon. There's a weapon there that I really liked in my last playthrough. So I think that's the one we're going to pump a lot of our upgrade materials into, but just for ease of game, we may upgrade this beaten stick a little bit. Yeah, I'm just speculating on mechanical stuff. Hopefully, hopefully you enjoyed my weird ramblings about the nature of souls. I should really write some of this down so that it's more cogent. I'm not just sort of letting my thoughts lead from one place to another while I hit stuff. Next episode will be a real episode. And we'll go back out into Blighttown. Dope.